Oh, that'd be sick. Dude, if you could
Yeah.
stream a TikTok,
I think
wild.
that's big ups, yeah. Because honestly, like, I don't engage with TikTok much, but I know that it is, like, the biggest platform, just by, like, bar none. So,
Yeah. Guess I'm gonna use this tiny piece of paper.
oh yeah, I forget that you're gonna use a tiny piece of paper?
No.
I won't. I
I'm
changed
gonna
my
get
mind.
some of this shit and
Yeah.
just roll.
Fair, fair, fair. Alright, let's see. I wish YouTube didn't just like auto generate um, thumbnails for your lives. I wish my lives just like stayed with like whatever is happening in the live.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
I do not want to stare at my analytics while I stream. Thank you very much, Twitch, or thank you very much, YouTube. Seems like a bad idea. So, have you like, do you have any ideas for like what you want your area to be like? Because like, it
I have a
doesn't have
name.
to be. You have a name?
I have a name. That's it. I was thinking about it while I was eating.
Let me hear it.
I don't know why this sounds familiar. So when I say this word, if you're like you're an idiot, that's already a thing in a different fantasy world. You just tell me. But is I like the name Ishkateth.
I have never heard. It sounds familiar because I think,
It's like
um,
phonetically pleasing.
yeah.
I don't know why, bro. I was like, I feel like that's already a thing.
So yeah, I
It's all
think
good.
that what you're thinking of like is like the Ishkar Collective uh from Elder Scrolls,
Oh, maybe.
but that's the only thing I can think of that is like that. And like I said, if you need to hear more about continents and shit,
I do need to hear more about continents. So,
okay,
like,
so I have
give me.
three. I have three like fully planned, and Malnor is the only one that I have like fully divided into like areas and shit like that. So
Okay.
Malnor is the very classical high fantasy, like elves, dwarves, very much inspired by like European medieval, and as well as like think Elder Scrolls, Baldur's Gate, like very classical medieval
Mhm.
themes. Akari Kaigen is the Japanese themed. Um, I have somewhat planned out for some areas. I have, let me read off this one thing. Oh, I need to open up Google Docs actually because I've been typing up the history. Because everything that needs to be re-accessed, I figured people would like to have that typed.
I agree. That's actually sick if we had like a central location of information.
Yeah. So the um, so technically this isn't pertinent information to anyone for this, so I think that it's okay for me to tell you guys. It remember like the salt plane that I described going into your session 0?
Yeah.
Um, it was actually created during the second major battle of the Falling, by the gods, in a battle called the Flattening, and it created the Ein, Ein Ni salt flats. Um, so this salt flat is like basically the definition of barren, and I don't know if you've ever like read anything about like people crossing the Sahara Desert like way back when to like get to like Timbuktu and shit. That's
Mhm.
kind of what I have planned for it. It's like people brave this salt flat basically in an attempt to connect the entire continent, and there are some nomadic tribes that like use the salt flat to their advantage and know how to live with it.
That's
Um,
fucking wild. Okay.
There is also an extremely up on the northern part of the continent. There is an extremely mountainous and like snowy portion of the continent. That's more of akin to where you're from. Um, it's kind of I don't have a map drawn up just because I haven't spent too much time because I've been focused on Malnor right now where you guys are at.
Yeah.
But so if this is like the southern portion, like this entirety, right? It's just like the salt flat is like on like part of the coast, and then the mountains stretch basically up north this way, and then the rest of the continent is like that natural Japanese like cracked lands and cherry blossoms and like some like no rolling hills, but like sharp jagged like ridges and like kind of like streams and like snow capped. It's very beautiful in essence, and this is in the northern hemisphere mostly.
Okay.
Um, the other continent I have somewhat planned out is Alcazir.
Okay.
Sorry, that is not the name of the continent. It has Alcazir. I have not thought of a name for the continent, but it is very much inspired by Arabian themes, um, as well as some of it is going to be what's the right word for it? It's very like Arabian and like like Middle Eastern as well as like some Northern African vibes like towards the coast and everything, kind of like with have you ever played Assassin's Creed like Black Flag and there's
Yeah.
like sometimes
Mhm.
you beach in the Caribbean? Think more like the Caribbean vibes on like some of the coast and shit like that. This
Okay.
one, this continent has a very large desert towards like the southeastern portion of it, and then towards like the northwest, or sorry, the southwestern portion of it, and then towards the northeastern portion, there's a very dense jungle that has like flowing rivers, and it is separated by this like flats, basically like giant mesas that rise out of the grounds.
Okay. Um, so I think I want to make a place. It may not be called Ishkateth now, so just because of where it's gonna go, I think I need to think of a more Japanese style name.
Sure.
But dude, I want to make a place on the continent where I'm from,
Yeah.
in the salt plains. I think I have
Okay.
a super good idea for some salt people.
Okay, I like the idea of that. Yeah, for sure.
So,
Honestly, while we're doing this, I think I'm gonna try and flush out some Akari Kagan then. Which, by the way, Akari Kagan is literally just direct Japanese for homeland.
mhm.
Um, but technically there is no such thing as Japanese in this world, so ha. Yeah, I wrote some of like the Fallen, like some of the Falling lore. Some of it's pertinent to you guys, so I can't tell. But some of these ones I wrote are fucking sick, dude. Like the fact that the gods themselves literally affected the material plane is kind of crazy in the first place. But like one of the battles is called the Unshackling, um, the Battle of the Betrayers.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking sick. It's so hard to draw natural, like natural coastlines.
Yeah.
I've had some fucking major issues with that.
Yeah, just let your hand go. Just gotta be as like irregular as possible, go in like all different directions. Have you ever seen the thing? Saw this on a stream once, but like people will take like a piece of paper and they toss like a handful of rice and then do it
I
that way.
have seen that, yeah.
Or like sand. Rice is probably easier to clean up. Dude, have you ever used Chat GPT?
GBD? No, I haven't.
No, I'm just being facetious. I'm saying you ever
Oh,
used
okay.
Chat GPT for content creation for your D&D world? Do you want a completely fake,
Okay, so first of all,
unrealistic,
that's an
and super
insane.
lame?
That would be a sick plugin for ChatGPT.
Yeah, it would
And
be.
also wouldn't require that many parameter changes.
Ah,
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. This is what I had envisioned for basically like the general outline of the map. It's
okay.
very much an L shape, and then on this like southern like corner here is basically like where the salt flats are. It very much separates like this southern peninsula and the northern like hemisphere where, because what you journeyed through basically is that you left your town, like your home lay here, and you basically traveled to like one of the port cities here, and then your first mission was actually in the salt flats.
Right. Okay, I remember that. So what I'm thinking then
This
is
is
that I want these to be like indigenous people.
Yeah, that's okay.
I
Yeah,
want these people
100%.
to not really be, they're not probably going to be the same faction as the town that I was in for session 0, because I feel like that was more of a civilized like settlement
Yeah, it wasn't like in the middle of
with the
the flat salts.
pagodas and
It was definitely towards like the northern and like coastal area. So it was actually a pretty close journey for you considering.
okay. Uh, that didn't sound super dumb. Fuck. I'm trying to think of a name for this really quick, but I'll give you the Japanese translation too if you'd like.
Honestly, so as long as it sounds right
Okay.
in the land,
'Cause
it doesn't really matter if it's Japanese because there are some things that in Japanese make sense for this, and then some things that
mhm.
don't. Like if you want to name it
For
something.
instance, I was just gonna take like what it kind of is and then
Mhm.
change it, kind of like you did with like a Kare Kaigen,
Yeah,
and then just kind of make it sound cool, like it's in our world.
yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Also think of like who would be naming it? Like it's probably the indigenous people that are naming it. And then it's colloquially bastardized by other people. So like what's it called at large? Um, that's definitely something to consider with naming. Naming can be very easy and very hard at the same time because it's like, would these indigenous people have much communication with these people here, and would everyone call it the same thing? Maybe not.
All right. I got this shit.
Okay.
This place is called Kutsure.
Um, yeah, how do
A
you
U Z
Okay.
U R E. It's like Kuzu and then R E.
Auzu?
No, Kuzure.
Kuzu. Okay, okay, okay. Okay. I like that. I'm going to go ahead and basically give a light representation of where these salt flats are. Oh, that's a way better idea. Okay, so I think I have that spelt right. Yeah.
Okay. But here, let me write up a little bit of a description and flesh it out, and
Yeah,
then I
absolutely. Go
will
ahead.
share because I don't want to get too far and then not lose or like lose my train of thought.
Oh shit, my pen died. God damn it. English to Japanese. Okay. So yeah. Yeah, the hard thing for me to figure out usually with like positioning things is like how do you
Mhm.
geographically make things make sense like in a world where not everything actually happened naturally?
Yeah, bro, what do you mean you didn't plan the tectonic plate structure of this
Yeah,
entire world?
like it's like it's kind of it's like there's mountains here, bro. I'm like it's whatever.
Yeah, bro, get your fucking DM skill up.
Hmm. Oh yeah, there we go. That's a little better. Honestly, the number one thing I did was actually look at real maps and just kind of be like, yeah, that shape makes sense. Yeah, there we go. And now the tricky thing comes to naming places. Hmm. Do they have... we go. One of the cool things with Tokyo or with Japanese is that it basically explains what it is in the name. Like
Oh yeah.
all capitals have to in it, like to.
Mm.
Fucking office places have T. It's like that's fucking nice.
I was gonna say it's kind of strange. Like English really be kind of hard as fuck.
Yeah, literally.
It's like so many things.
Dun, 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 dun. This is very much so a smaller continent than Malnor, by the way. Like a lot of it is very much well connected, other than like the salt flats.
Okay. Okay, this is what I have so far. So the Kusure, it's a village in this village deep in the salt flats. This village is said to move move as time goes on. It is a hard place to find, seemingly cloaked by mirage. The area around it is desolate and dry. Not many make it long enough in the salt flats to ever even discover this place. No matter, because the people of this place typically do not care to be found.
That's fucking sick.
The Kutsu. Here, I'll let you jot down some notes before I continue.
So
I'm kind of trying to just give you like ideas and like a general, like I don't want to do too much deep shit because I want you to develop that into your own thing.
Well, what I was kind of thinking is that if you wanted to take this all the way, we could do like a one shot where you get to play it out, and then afterwards, you send me all your notes, and that's just your place. Like,
that'd be kind of sick.
Yeah. Cause I know.
Well, would I do the one shot as Ansys?
If it makes sense, if we're in the correct time in the campaign, or if you want to jump back in time, maybe.
That's what I was almost thinking. It would be almost kind of sick if like we did a one shot that was like a flashback.
So the only thing with that is you have to keep in mind that you started this campaign at level 1, so it would have to be like a level 1 game.
Yeah.
So really. here's another idea though, is that like for the mindscape of DMing, right? Is you could do it as maybe a figure that I could use as a mentor later on or something, and it's like 25 years previous.
Oh, that would be sick.
And maybe there's some sort of training or some sort of test that goes on for this village.
Can maybe, speaking of mentor, can my sensei, like the guy that was training me and the homies back in session 0, can he have had a nice little stay?
Yeah, so
at the Kutsure.
So the whole thing is that whenever he became your sensei, he lost his name. So this would be going back in time, and I would have to flush out that character. That could be someone I could play, and then we could gather some of the friends to play some other characters around that. We would all basically be monks unless someone is like hired or something, which I think would be a cool dynamic for like a one shot. So
that would be kind of sick. Well, yeah, that's stuff to think about for sure.
Yeah. So
I do like the idea, because I even have an idea now of like what we could play into with Ansys if we were to flesh out like why maybe my mentor is the way that he is.
Yeah, because we didn't go into it too much, but he was very much a stoic and like he was a good mentor for what you guys were doing, but he is not the nicest fella.
Cool.
I like the idea of the like moving village.
Yeah, because that's kind of ambiguous too. It's like, is it moving? Is it the mirage? Are the people that are in the salt flats that finally make it long enough to get there, are they going crazy by the time they get there? It's like they're keen in the illusory arts. So this is the next part of my little excerpt here is the Kutsu. That's the people that live in this place, are indigenous to this area, somehow living in the middle of a salt flat and surviving off of what they have, which is probably nothing. They're a kind of gross, emaciated, like uh, people. They're very ritualistic as a society, completely covered their skin. Um, in like 300, how like the people who like the shamans up in the mountains are like all gross and disgusting.
Yep.
So that's kind of like why they keep themselves covered.
So, here's one thing to think about as well, is you had mentioned something about Ansys wanting to do some sort of like a genjutsu akin to. So let me look up the Shadow Monk real quick.
What is a genjutsu? Like a
So yeah, you had mentioned something like that, because you said that you wanted to do like the hand signal thing, basically. So Shadow Arts is you gain the ability to cast darkness. You can cast dark vision. You can cast pass out of trace or silence. Without providing material components with key points, and you also gain minor illusion cantrip. So, one, the way I have built your special ability that you're going to really start finding out is act first, act fast.
Okay.
Because I think that makes a lot of sense. So
Definitely.
for this like genjutsu experience, maybe there's an arc where you have to come back and maybe discover something, and it basically unlocks your next part of your special ability, and we could play into like the minor illusion. Double, what up, brother?
Hello.
What's up, dude?
We could basically play into like the illusion side of it if you wanted, or we could basically lend it yourself to like the attack first, attack fast, and your genjutsu like is invisibility or like cloaking or something like that. So that's one path we could go as well.
Yeah, that was kind of something I was thinking about as well, is that I think that the Kutsu are probably, because they are such a neutral, like indigenous inhabitants, they're probably going to be like actually kind of cool with my monastery.
Yeah.
Like they could be honestly even like a place where they send like certain trainees.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
it's
I love this train of thought, and honestly, if you want to keep some of the details to yourself, and then like before this session, we fully flush it out to me, just because
Okay.
I need to make sure that like some connections work.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But 100% this is a route we can go. What I didn't know is I thought this was something you get at the start of your Way of the Shadow. You don't get the Shadow Step until 6th level.
Yeah.
So I thought that was level 3 for some reason.
Nah, it's
But
6.
dude, fucking level 17, you just step into the shadows and go invisible.
Yeah, just going.
That's so sick.
It's gonna be sick. But yeah, dude, I can get back to you on some stuff, because I've got it pretty much all written down here. What like I want the vibe of the place to be.
Yeah.
So
'Cause that can 100% be your thing, and then just like honestly, in the next hour or so, like tell me what like you want the connections to be. We can flush those out because I know the rest of it, obviously.
Okay.
And then if you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, that's all you, brother.
Okay, fuck yeah. Well,
Did you
dude,
get
yeah,
a new
my
camera.
so funny. Yes, funny you asked. I'm glad you noticed. I have a really nice camera, like for filmmaking and just like shit that I do. And on the firmware update for it, you can just plug it in to your computer and use it as a webcam too. So now I have like literally a Sony A7 IV. Yeah, that's my webcam, bro.
Because
Yeah,
I joined and I was like, man, that looks crazy.
It looks
Yeah,
insane.
dude. It like zooms and it like has eye tracking and it focuses on me always. So yeah, I was like, this is actually big ups for the stream and everything too.
Huge ups.
I think the thing I really need right now is a ring light.
Blurs
that's
the
fair.
background. Your lighting is really not too bad, Double.
Yeah, it's more just like it bothers me that there's just a shadow right in the middle of my face.
Yeah. That's understandable.
So I had a little bit of trouble getting it even just like bright enough in my apartment with like the shit I have.
Mm.
But now we're good. Another good thing about this camera, insanely good in low light.
Yeah.
Because at that point I can like actually set my shutter speed, my ISO, like I can set all the cool shit you would want to on a camera. So
Double, while you're here, the original path we had discussed is you being like somewhat of a tank type, like frontliner.
Yeah.
With certain individuals joining, that might be less required.
Okay.
So if you want to delve further into the investigative side, I would be totally down for that. Or if you want to stay the path, I'm also okay with that. I just wanted to let you know if that's something you didn't want to necessarily do and felt like you had to.
No, that's just something I wanted to do just because like I liked the flavor of it.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure, just so you didn't feel pressured.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I think. Well, yeah, I kind of like where most things are.
Cool. That's all I needed to hear. Because I was worried at the first, like with the first couple sessions, that people would, especially since we have a smaller party and no one really chose like a barbarian or anything, people are gonna be like, oh, I have to fill this role, otherwise we're doomed to fail.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to play that class because I one of my favorite things to do is roleplay an injured like character or just tired.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I wanted to get that from.
Okay, cool. Cool. I'm excited to see what you guys get down to in this next session in Deep Hollow.
I'm excited.
We're probably gonna get into.
So excited.
I think we're gonna get into at least 2 fights.
We're gonna get so fucked up, Double. Like, I already have a feeling. I'm like looking around. I'm like, these are bad people.
Like we already are planning on jumping somebody, and then we're gonna go into a warehouse with an unknown amount of people.
Yup.
Oh,
I need
shit,
to
man.
get a couple levels, bro. I need to start being a shisty little bitch. So I need to be a little.
Depending on how the next session goes, there's a chance there's a level up.
Word. Yeah, because at least like at level 3, I will actually subclass. So
With basically how since I'm doing milestone, fighting doesn't have to be the only way you guys level up. If there's a major thing that happens and it feels like you guys got like an experience from it, that might also be worthwhile. So just keep in mind that I'm not looking for only fights.
yeah, I feel that. Oh yeah, dude. I know what these people look like too, bro. Like I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, these people are gonna be so sick.
Yeah, I gotta write. I'm meeting with Keegan tomorrow, and as well as Mason tomorrow to do his character. So
Nice.
Are we allowed to tune into that?
you guys can tune in, just like I encourage everyone to watch Session Zeros. Just remember like your character versus over the top, all that type of
Yeah,
stuff.
they're not session zeros, are they?
They will be sessions. Well, for Keegan, Session Zero. For
wanna
Mason,
watch
I'm not
Session
sure,
Zero.
depending on how far we get, because he has given me no insight to what he wants his character to be, other than maybe a cleric.
Okay.
So if I, have an hour to kind of like get his story started and everything, then yeah, we could do Session Zero tomorrow.
Well, cool. Yeah, just let me know.
I'm about to say, but you guys are more than welcome to join in for Keegan's, because I'm sure his will be pretty cool. So.
I just want to make fun of his little bitch ass.
Yeah, those are non-streamed sessions still, so
Okay.
very
That's
much
exclusive.
for us. Yeah, they're
Keegan's
for
a
us.
funny guy.
100%.
You know, that's what you'd put on the Patreon, Ian. You should get a
Yeah,
Patreon.
dude, that's actually something I thought about asking you guys about. That's something that wouldn't be just mine, and that's something that I think we should discuss off stream as like a whole group one night. If that's a step we want to take, but that's something
What
we
is
can
it?
look into. Patreon or like there's a different website for it, but because that would include you guys making content for it, because paying into like to achieve more content, I could not be the only one making content to like keep up with the amount that needs to be made.
Yeah.
So it would require like character AMAs and stuff like that.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
something like that. So.
I mean, dude, if we had a community built and people were into it and like wanted to do that, I would totally do an AMA as a fucking, or an AME as a fucking, or AMA as a fucking like Ansys. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely an avenue we can go with that. I think that's a little further down the road, but I am glad you're thinking about it, Double, because that's a really good idea. So.
I just kind of threw it out there, but I just, after I saw how well one of those shorts did, I was like, oh, I didn't think me just going, screw that would, because it was also cut really well of just, we shouldn't do anything rash, screw it.
Because, dude, you know what's funny is I thought those two moments were like super far apart. It was like a minute of discussion between Brandon going, let's not do anything rash, and then you going, I'm gonna attack him.
It's because I think the real turning point for me was when he was like, we should, go back, regroup, and wait till next. That's when I was like, nah.
Yeah, you're a very much get things done quickly kind of guy.
That was just what, like I wanted to avoid being destructive, but in that moment, I was like, I think this is what my character would do is valid here.
Yeah, 100%. And that's an important note is like we have a good group of players, not characters, for you guys to be able to be like, hey, maybe that was a little uncool to do in the moment, and you guys are willing to be like, okay, let me not like fully extend myself into that situation where everyone else feels uncomfortable.
Yeah. Just in the future, it's probably not going to come up, but just for that point, I was like, I think we can handle this.
Yeah.
But there was also the idea of like, hey, there's someone who's captured, and the longer we wait, the longer they're kind of dealing with it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it would have been interesting to see you guys come back, because it would have been worse. Like 100%.
Like, what if they were just gone? What if
I'm hoping that you guys get to meet a character that I designed next game as well. There's a whole lot of shit happening in Deep Hollow.
Dude, my handwriting is going so fucking hard right now. Bro, my fucking handwriting is low key kind of nice. I should be looking like I'm on some fucking preamble Constitution of the United States. Looking at
honestly, mine looks like dog shit. So
looking like George Washington out here.
One thing to keep in mind for designing places and like cities, quote unquote, Brandon, is like leadership as well. And like if they have forces or etc. Just because that's something I kind of forgot about whenever I was designing, so I just wanted to put that in your mind.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on to the connections part, like the connections to like the monastery.
Yeah.
So is there anything I need to think about as far as how they would be related to each other? Like what can't they be or what could they be?
I will give you I will give you a reminder description of what your monastery is like, and what your like faction is like. They're very much so cemented in the idea of balance.
Okay.
Balance to this group of people basically means what benefits the most amount of people.
Okay.
Oftentimes it includes dealing in like political assassinations and shit, but it's not out of a necessity for the monastery. It is out of necessity of what they think benefits the most people. So they're like you are taught to be a selfless person, but not in a manner of let's do the most good. It's I need to do what is necessary, and I need to do what could basically like change for the better, or just to like basically course correct. Oftentimes that comes with taking down evil, because evil tends to be the loudest voices, right? And tends to act the quickest. But that doesn't necessarily always mean that you're going to be doing the correct thing to do it.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, try and draw a connection from maybe that theme, and maybe play with that idea. Because there's some bad motherfuckers in your Kage. I'm excited to have all of you guys like reach your next step for story as well. Because right now you guys are necessarily on like a main quest, quote unquote. So.
What do I call my people? Like my homies at the monastery?
So everyone individually is thought of. It depends on basically what level you are. But as like a collective, you are the Kage. Like you are, because Kage directly translates to shadow.
Okay.
And
that's right. I remember that now.
Yeah, so you are the Kage. Like your identity is basically based around committing yourself to this group.
Well, this is kind of sick because it's the Kage and the Kutsu.
Yep.
So also I didn't ever explain this, I don't think, but the Kutsudere, I think it's like our basically Japanese inspired version. It means like crumbled home.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, I figured the salt plains, it's all cracked and shit, and so like one place is like the Akari Kaigen is also home, so this is just like a different version of kind of that word to keep it in the same like dialect a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. Oh shit, there we go. Keegan's character is a tricky character to come up with shit for.
I can only wonder what that means. Like what like that would entail for that character.
He just has like a very interesting, like, he's not a complex guy necessarily. He just has like very strong moral codes and it's very funny.
That'll be interesting. Especially
what
given
race did he choose?
He's a half elf.
That's right.
Yeah, his first session is gonna be session 0 is gonna be heavy RP. So.
I was gonna say, it's like, my character has a strong moral code, and it's like, to an extent.
I will say, Double, I love the way you play your character because it allows me. I have an idea right now, right? That I'm gonna put you in some situations that is gonna make you think.
All right. Because I kind of built it a bit
Jacob,
around,
appreciate you checking
the
out the
idea
stream.
that like kind of like what Batman has, but to an extent, because Arthur's not crazy like Batman, so like his whole thing of like he won't kill people for the most part unless he absolutely has to. Because his whole thing is that like, hey, just killing the problem won't solve it. You're kind of just like, if you kill like all the Dons of like in this like family, you're just leaving a power vacuum.
Yeah.
So he's like, there's like the best like he's like the most ideal way to change is if these people redeem themselves, because that's not only like the problem's gone, it's also a gain for just society.
Yeah, sure. I understand where you're coming from, and I will say whenever there's ever a situation that it feels like cut and dry of what you're supposed to do, that means I have failed as a DM, which would be unfortunate.
I mean, I was already thinking like, should he like kill these undead people? And then I thought, okay, in this case, these are zealous cultists that are undead. I don't think there's any saving them.
Yeah, that's fair. You were also the first guy to suggest fucking taking them in instead of killing them, so taking one of them in, so.
Yeah, just trying to figure out like, hey, what was their goal?
A chat member just asked us if we were foreplaying. That's fucking comical.
That is so funny.
This is not the roleplay, this is the foreplay. In a sense, Jacob is right. In a sense. Are you guys foreplaying?
Yeah, bro, what do you think I got this new camera for?
Can see us foreplay in 4K.
Okay.
Yeah,
Shall I tell you? Go ahead, Double. Sorry.
Oh, well, like, my main thing with Arthur right now is like the arc of like becoming a kinder person, because what he's doing now is like it works, but like his whole thing is just learning like, hey, you don't have to like maim people to like get them to listen to you.
Sure, yeah. But also there is sometimes ineffectiveness in that, so.
Yeah, that's kind of like what he's at right now, where he's just like, I'm just gonna just kick their faces in, and if they don't listen to me, they're just crazy.
Yeah, that's understandable. It's challenging with such a with not knowing a lot of experience as a DM and not having a lot of experienced players necessarily. I'm really excited to see the chaos that kind of stems from that to a certain extent, because I think that there's cool things that can happen with super experienced players and everything, but I'm excited to see what the fuck happens whenever there's not so experienced players. So
I mean, yeah, because when you're not experienced, people just kind of come up with a lot more interesting stuff because they don't know the rules that well.
Yeah.
So when you know the rules to an extent, it can kind of lock you into a way of thinking.
Yeah, and there is always going to be room for creativity at my table. Like what you guys were trying to do during the second episode, with the fireball action and everything. I was totally down for you guys trying to throw one another and shit. I just didn't know how you guys were gonna pull it off until you guys gave me a good description. And whenever Banda was like, I could throw you the first 15 feet, I was like, well, he could actually do that, but it would also require you to land on your feet, and then if you don't do that, you're probably gonna die. And I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Or when Dylan's literally talking to a god, and the first thing he does is just pull a fucking card out of his goddamn deck of cards.
I love the idea that he's gonna meet someone who puts him in his place eventually, and
Damn.
if it's one of you guys, I would appreciate that. If it's someone else that I have to create at some point, I'm gonna do that, and it's gonna make Asher have a hell of a time, because Asher very much is a preppy white kid,
Yeah, it's funny.
But what were you talking about, Brandon? With
Okay. So here's what I'm thinking. So these places both are neutral, correct? They're not necessarily friendly. They are. I'm sorry. They're not friends. They are friendly. Just because of their neutral standing, they're almost like we're so neutral, and my monastery is at least somewhat integrated with society still. The Kutsu are not.
Yeah.
They keep to themselves, of course, but where they kind of relate to each other is always wanting to restore balance, and that's kind of where they find common ground.
Sure.
They kind of also use each other's weapons to each other's advantages. For instance, the Kutsu are not ones to necessarily go assassinate somebody, but in order to assassinate somebody, the Kage can use some moves, that maybe the Kutsu have taught them. So basically, what I have here is, unlike the Kage, the Kutsu deal with matters with illusion and deception. They weave time and light to their own will. So I kind of think it would be really cool if their illusory magic was very like, because it's obviously, is it bright in these salt flats?
So, the way I kind of think about it is like a salt flat is casually like a beige white. So, one, dryness, and two,
Sure.
the sun, if it is out, like, because
It's
also,
reflecting off everything.
yeah, you have to think like if it rains, that's one, a fucking blessing for this salt flat,
Mm.
and two, if it is bright out and in the middle of a summer
Just a
day,
mirror.
it's just
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's fine. They have. It's a small commune. They have one main leader.
okay.
It is sort of, and you bend this to your own will, is kind of like sort of a prophet type.
Oh,
Um,
cool. Okay.
so I'm thinking, he's sitting in a room. I'm thinking that all of these, I'm thinking, I'm trying not to be like Tatooine.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
It's in that same realm where everything is very monochromatic. It's all built out of all they had, which was fucking like sand and salt and like the
Yeah.
shit that's around them. I think like kind of like I don't know, their furniture is a little bit like a mixture of burlap and bohemian.
So this is good things to think about, because if you're going to be DMing a session, like a session for this, right?
Mhm.
Like these descriptions are what help you kind of plant those seeds of whenever your players walk into the zone, where you can be like, boom, this is what you see, this is what's happening,
Yeah.
and like it builds. If you already have some sort of visual descriptions, it helps us understand entirely. So
Okay, but underneath the one leader, there is a couple of like what we would maybe call like disciples, or some people that follow very closely and are like advisors. They help foster power, certain things like that, carry out duties for the main leader.
okay.
Their relationship with the Kage is that when the certain Kage are deemed worthy, they are basically, they always ask. It's never just like we're sending them to you. So the Akate Kaigen, the Kage are super respectful of their like ancient ways, and also recognize how people could find this power and it become abused.
Sure. Okay.
So not often do they get the privilege of going. Not only do the Kutsu have to deem the Kage worthy, but the Kage have to go before them and basically say, this is what needs to happen, and this is how balance will be restored. And if they basically deem that a worthy scenario, they will put out the magic type of thing that needs to happen, whatever that
Okay.
may be, to be just ambiguous a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
I like the idea that it's like a mutual respect, and not like a subservient one. That's very cool.
Yeah, because it's oftentimes, I think that the Kutsu are like, no, like we will not train your people because our powers, if abused, could lead to very bad things.
Sure. Yeah.
And
100%.
probably have in the past. Like, there's probably, you could work this in, some enemies and shit, bro, that spent some time with the Kutsu.
It's funny you say that. Um, I have already thought of something like that. With with a monastery that is so considered so gray in like a moral background, I think that there's a lot of um, scenarios where there's going to be someone that maybe goes too far to one side, kind of loses
Mhm.
themselves in the idea of balance, and kind of starts to want to do more evil or more good or whatever. And that's an idea I've played with before, and it's funny you say that. So
But yeah, that's kind of what I have. So if you want to pinpoint certain other areas I should flesh out, um, that's like a really, I think that's like a decent like pillars of this civilization.
The only sort of thing is I would think about culture, right? Like,
Okay.
um, how I described, if you remember your lay, it has these massive columns with the history of like the monastery etched into them. It, you guys are not like a presentory group of people. Your culture is very ingrained in like your practice as a monk, and
Hmm.
like carrying out your trials and like completing yourself as to be one with the shadow. Are these people like committed to an art form? Are they like, because like their art form could be this illusory thing as well, like this path. But just kind of think like if he's a prophet, like do they have ancient spirits, or are they protectors of like the spirits of like the people that have passed on? Um, just kind of like think about that scenario. So
Okay. Okay.
because really there's three things that describe a civilization, and it's politics, culture, and agriculture. But agriculture is usually so easily taken care of unless it's in a situation like this, and then
Yeah.
you're a hunter gatherer, and that completely changes everything else. So that's kind of like the three things that you think about as like the cornerstones of a civilization is agriculture, politics, and culture.
Yeah.
Double, do you know whenever Troy is going to be free? Because I think he said that Sunday was going to be the first time we could play, but if we could squeak in a session before that, that would be fire too, since we've taken such a long break.
I think Wednesdays and Thursdays also work for him because they work for me too.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about if it's all day, but for me on those days it's all day as well.
Gotcha.
Okay, but yeah, I was gonna say Wednesdays and Thursday nights I typically work, but I'm available until 4. So
Yeah, the only I don't want to fuck with the schedule too frequently is the
yeah,
main thing.
yeah, just keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Because if it's between that and just waiting till Sunday, we can just wait till Sunday. Because once we get back on the Sunday grind, we'll have pretty regular sessions. I feel like.
I think. Ooh, I should probably mention this in general too. I would like to start like an hour early, just because if we're gonna have one, it's the first session back, so there's gonna be some time like finding footing, etc.
Hmm.
And also, if we have two players trying to like figure out whenever those guys are coming in, not during, it's not gonna necessarily be during this session, but if it makes sense story wise,
Yeah.
and you guys come across it, and I'm not ready to have two players join, that would be bad. So.
Hmm.
Yeah, if we're starting an hour early for this session.
Yeah, probably like this next one that we're doing.
I mean, honestly, we can
I would
just
just
like
need to let some
maybe.
people know, but I should be
Okay.
good.
Okay. I gotcha.
So what would that put us at, like 7?
Yeah, because if it's ever inconvenient, then that is totally fine. Because 8 o'clock on a Sunday, one, I understand that people usually have things on Monday morning.
Yeah.
But also, the main reason I did that is because I knew that everyone would be free. So.
Yeah, I mean, and even if we need to in the future, if 7 works better regularly, we can
Yeah.
push just to 7. That way we have like a little bit of time afterwards to like do shit.
You know, I'm trying to decide if I like Apple switching to USB-C or not yet. Because everything's consistent, but I also dislike that everything I used to have does not work with the new shit, so.
There.
Hmm.
God, I don't know how the fuck to. With how Keegan's special ability works, I don't know how to work it into his background at all. Hmm. Ah, shit. Double, have you ever DM'd, by the way? Or
I
have you
have
always.
actually. I've played well, I haven't started on a session for it in a while, but I've had a somewhat consistent game I did with some of my friends. Mason was a player in it actually.
Oh, word. Okay.
I
Gotcha.
have the whole entire settings though is like a kind of like a sci-fi mixed with fantasy.
Oh, cool. Yeah, one of these days, whenever I kind of flush this world out to a certain extent, I want to work on a different setting, but I also really like high fantasy, so it's kind of hard to like stop working on that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I for me the campaign came from I was like, man, I'm kind of sick of playing in like medieval stuff. Like I think this
Yeah.
was like a year or two ago, and then I was like, I want to play a game with like a more sci-fi fantasy mix. And then I was like, it's not gonna happen unless I do it, or at least it's super unlikely. So I just did it, and I had fun.
Yeah, that's
I still
fair.
gotta have the world built out. My plan is just to kind of like I just have like different since I kind of made the world really big. The idea is just like I could just run sessions on different parts of life there, and they're all just kind of connected.
Yeah, that
At least
makes sense.
that was my main goal.
Have you ever seen the I can't remember the exact name of it. It's like the multiverses of D&D. They came out with like a full book for it recently, like a campaign guide for it.
Oh,
Um, but it's basically like if you think of like Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness, where there's just like thousands of different beings and they all like collide in like one universe, like outside of time and reality. That is basically what this new book is describing, and it's fucking sick because
that's pretty cool.
it's got like neon signs, but yet there will still be a tavern, and it's got like turtles and high elves, but also like a dude with a fucking robot arm, and it's super fucking cool. It is like a mix and mash of literally like all things in D&D, sci-fi, and like high fantasy. It's really cool.
Yeah, because that's a lot of what I do. Because when I was like making it, I had gotten a lot of inspiration from the cyberpunk world.
Oh yeah.
So I included like cybernetic enhancements, and I have some characters built out. And like one of the main like things is like the city recently had a major like reform with the police force that was super corrupt. So the
Oh
whole
yeah.
thing is like the police force staff was reduced by like 70% in the entire like city. That's like the city was like the size of Texas. It's kind of like a very close together like kind of like a hive city.
Oh cool. Yeah.
So the whole thing is like everyone trying to get accustomed to life with the police force being reduced as much as it is.
Oh yeah.
And there's like mercenaries and stuff like that. And I what I really like doing with at least concepts I like to explore, because like I don't see it too often, is I delve more into the psionic stuff.
Oh yeah. Cool.
So I kind of use that a bit more. I have these two, because like with a city like this, when it's so collected, and with the idea of like sorcerers and like psychic stuff where you can just be born with it, it's gonna give rise to like vigilantes.
Mm.
And because it's a big city, and because of course it has to, it's separate into different sectors. So I kind of have like, this is the most popular vigilante in each sector. And one of them in the poorest one, like the more rundown one, I have these two characters called the Void Brothers. At least that's kind of like what the public has kind of announced them as. And they're these two, like, compared to the other vigilantes, they're very young. Like, I think it was, now that I think about it, I forgot. I named one of them Arthur. He's 15. And
Nice.
then there's Victor, who is 16. They're both like these kind of really psychic powerhouses. And I actually based Victor off of my brother, because I really like exploring the theme of like siblings and brotherhood.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my main thing. So I based him off of my actual brother because it was easy.
That's
I
fucking
know
sick.
him.
Yeah. I have a character like that. I have basically decided that there is a Brandon in this universe that is just not named Brandon.
That's funny.
I don't know when it's gonna come in, but it is very funny.
That's hilarious. I can't wait for that.
The easiest place to draw inspiration from is real life. Like
Yeah.
Hans just kills him.
you're gonna get a job. You're gonna get a loose leaf
Yeah.
of paper that says his name on it. You're like, fuck.
I gotta go kill myself in real life or in fake life.
in game.
In game.
I had to really like reel it back, because like as I was making those NPCs, I was like, I really love these guys, and I kind of gave them a lot, to the point where I was like, it might get to a point where if I run a session dealing with the vigilante side of things, I might have to run it in mutants and masterminds, because I was
Oh, yeah.
like, I wanted to give them distinct things. So Arthur's thing was like, because they're both psychic and have some magical understanding, but Arthur's like a prodigy in both. So he kind of uses that to mix his own, and since he doesn't have formal training, he's not locked down in what most wizards do. So he just does all this crazy stuff. And Victor's the more straightforward one, where his kind of psychic ability that manifested was manipulating kinetic energy and just
Oh.
kinetics in general.
Cool. Yeah.
Because I was like, I need to justify these two young kids being a problem for these like massive syndicates
Yeah.
with
Sure.
a lot of power. So I was like, if I just make them complete, just like just the powerhouses, it would be hard to deal with them.
That's fair. Yeah.
But it's kind of hard to transfer a lot of that stuff into Dungeons and Dragons, because it's like, if I wanted to play it fully straight, you couldn't really hurt Victor very much if you do try to do it physically.
Yeah. That's understandable.
So I had to like reel things back and be like, okay, I need to figure out how I want to like do this. Because the idea is you never really want to fight them. I mean, you wouldn't really get into a scenario where you would, because they're just like, they're kids that are trying to like, they've recently gotten back into school because they grew up without, parents. So it's like they're they're kids. They're not gonna just get into random fights with people on the street.
Yeah. Yeah, that is super fair.
But yeah, I have those two. I have the other vigilantes that I have for the other sectors. Like there's technically 4, but there's only the major ones in 3 of them. Like one of them I named, actually what was it? Yeah, one of them, he is also one of my favorites, but this is a character that I designed. It's just like, even if you are evil, you will not encounter him, because his whole thing is that he is kind of like he's the bar. It's kind of like how Superman is like he's like the bar that is set for heroes. Like that is what everyone strives to. That's kind of like his thing. And I don't want to spoil what he does because I might run a session for you guys at one point.
Dude, I would fucking love that. This is another thing, is that I'm just glad to be exposing some people to tabletop RPGs. Like fucking Dylan, he would have never played a tabletop RPG unless I fucking told him to. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that I got everyone to do it.
That'll be fun. But yeah, I would definitely be down to just, run a thing for you guys. I would have to figure out like what the circumstances are because as I'm like, oh, I'll connect these, it kind of makes it harder to be like, oh, I can't just run the same one shot every time.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Because I want the events to all be canon, or at least these characters to exist in some way. So it's like, oh, if you make a character, well, now they're an NPC that exists. If it doesn't continue. But yeah, I have a couple different things, and I made a lot of NPCs, that was a mistake on my part that I was like, I really need to learn to reel this back because a lot of them are in like this one particular spot.
Yeah.
Making NPCs is a tricky business, man. It's some of the most fun I have, and also some of like the most daunting, because it's like, fuck, if you guys come back to this town and I can't remember this person's accent or something, it's like, honestly,
What now?
fuck it. It's changing. Because at a certain point, like, you guys are going to meet so many NPCs that don't matter,
Oh yeah.
but you guys are going to hold on to in some way or another. It's going to be interesting. Otter, what's up? Appreciate you checking out the stream. Just found your D&D series from YouTube Shorts. Well, hey man, I'm glad they're working. Shit slaps so far? That's what I like to hear. For the two players here with me, a dude just dropped in the chat and said, shit slaps so far. So, big ups to the players.
Nice.
Thank you.
We
Love
definitely
to see it.
appreciate it though. Yeah, this is definitely not
I
Not a
feel like
part
I
of the
think I got a
series,
good
but-
feeling after we almost got into not we. Dylan and King almost got into PvP in the second session. I was like, this is gonna go places.
There,
Yeah.
with the two of them, because one, their real personalities are pretty confrontational, but in like a joking manner. Like most of their jokes come from like a confrontation kind of side of comedy.
Yeah.
And the way that that plays out in character is just both of them being hostile to each
Yeah.
other. So I will be interested to see where the two of them take that, because they don't like each other, like 100%. Especially Bando. He just kind of doesn't care about Asher, but Asher definitely cares about Bando, which is very funny.
Like something I didn't bring up as it happened because it went from out of character to in character because originally Asher didn't know that Bando left that out
Yeah.
just to spite him, but somehow I don't remember when or who did it, but at some point in their argument it went from out of character to in character. And I was so like sideswiped by that. I was like, when did this happen?
Yeah.
I was like, wait.
Yeah, it's because like
That was fucking
obviously
so funny.
my number one priority as a DM is like, are both parties comfortable with like an in-character conflict? Because I don't necessarily want someone to like start an argument and it be like, hey man, that was too far on the RP and shit. What's a D&D campaign without a little conflict, says Otter, and I 100%, yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, is like, there's so far where you can take it, especially with newer players, is it's like, that kind of made me uncomfortable, maybe let's take a step back. But with the two of them and their personalities, it works perfectly.
There's no limit.
Yeah.
Like they both
Right.
don't really care.
They don't care. And especially with like, I think that all of you guys understand it, but I think the two of them, if anything ever goes too far, someone's gonna be like, hey, let's tone it back because that felt too real.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I hope that they work it out in a way that is a little interesting.
Yeah.
like that's kind of why like in character conflicts is always like
You're a great DM,
it's
by the
always
way.
interesting to like
Thank
play
you,
off
Otter.
of
I appreciate it.
because
That means a lot. I just started.
what
I'm
was it?
new
It
at
was like that was
so-
the reason that was partially why I did that whole like screw it thing because
Yeah.
I was like, this will open up an opportunity maybe for Francis to go, hey, what were you thinking if he wanted to? And it's just like, well, I mean, we won, it's just in
Yeah.
character arguments are always interesting.
I agree.
An enemies
even
to
been-
lovers arc. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping for the best because I think that would be the most interesting between the two of them. But obviously, I think that it's gonna happen naturally, whatever way they want it to be. If it ends up having a character leave the party, that will be staggering.
That would be crazy.
Because I don't think either of them have thought of backup characters, so
I
But-
definitely haven't.
yeah. Dude, there's gonna be a session where someone dies and someone's like, "Wait, what?"
Bro, I don't want to die.
No, well, that's something to think about too, right? Is like, I don't want your guys' experience in D&D to be, oh, you killed my character out of like spite or something. If it feels like a forced death, one, that's something that you would have to come to me with, and two, I don't really plan on just like straight up killing your characters. Because
Yeah, but I
as
mean,
of
if it
right
happens, you gotta
now-
roll with it.
Yeah, if it happens, it happens. That's kind of what it is. Two
fine
sessions
with that.
in, yeah. 2 sessions in and someone gets fucking wiped from the table. Can you imagine?
Well, bro, it already almost happened.
Yeah, I almost died, but I when you play tabletops enough, you kind of start thinking of character ideas that you want to use but you can't, so it just starts building up.
Yeah.
That definitely. I'm excited to get the chance to play because I have only ever played in one shots, and I have only ever DM'd one shots before this campaign, which is why I want so desperately for Brandon for you to run like a session.
Hmm.
Because I think that one, having created this world allows for me to pull a character that might end up becoming an NPC you guys interact with and really
Right.
flushing him out to where it's like you guys meet this guy and it's almost like meeting another player even though you have only met him as an NPC, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah, that's actually really cool. It's a very
So-
dynamic world building there, Ian.
yeah, exactly. Sage, what are you coming in here saying pause for, brother? Oh, is it because I said coming in, Sage? Is that really your joke?
Please.
Sage with the resub, let's go!
Let's go.
I have so many ideas for characters in D&D that I've never been able to use since I never get the chance to play. See, that's another issue a lot of people encounter. Is that usually you just like don't ever get a group. My biggest recommendation for people is scheduling because I think that's the most important. That's kind of what got our group to do it, honestly, is we finally just picked the time. So finding a group is hard though. Finding the right group is even harder. So I redeemed points. Ooh, Sage, I got bad news for you, buddy. I got bad news for you. I'm on a hiatus right now. Yeah, I know. Good good night.
It's crazy. But yeah, if I ever found time, because like right now I am running a kind of a mini campaign thing in the 40K tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
It's this old one called Dark Heresy. It's the second edition that I'm running, and I need to actually schedule a time to play more of it.
Yeah, 40K has always intrigued me because of like how unique the setting is. And I don't know enough about it, truthfully. But from what I do
it's
know,
so over the top.
yeah. Also, did you guys fucking hear that Henry Cavill is like producing his own 40K series now?
Yeah, I heard about that. I was like, huh.
Yeah, I'm hyped for that, honestly. I think it's gonna be really
Interesting.
good. Apparently he's a mega nerd for 40K.
Yep.
Which honestly, if you get anyone behind the steering wheel that loves something that much, usually it's gonna end up good. So
Yeah.
Yep.
It's I have a lot of fun with it because it's just so over the top. Because like Warhammer, I think at its base is kind of satire. Like I think
yeah.
because it's so like dumb that it's a parody of itself almost. But it's so much fun to just get into it because it's like everyone hates each other and everything sucks. But that's kind of the charm.
Yeah, that's fair.
As a wise man once said, he's like, but that's kind of the charm. He's like, everyone's a villain, but villains are cool.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I always fuck with villains so much.
Someone earlier commented on one of my shorts about I was like, leave a comment for NPC names, and they left a name that's like a perfect meh, like twirly mustache villain name. Almost like a General Grievous-esque character who's like, yeah, I'm gonna get you next time, and then scurries away.
It's so good.
A few buddies who play D&D, but differing time zones and life shit always spells the end to any plans. See, yeah, that is hard. I mean, honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I think the biggest difference for us was that we had all kind of been anticipating it for like a month. That all of us were like, I will give up time to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that you guys are committed, one. Which might be something to think about, Otter, is that if your players aren't super committed, you might just need to find a different player, and that might suck in the short term, but you can always have people jump in as like a guest, especially for a home game. There is always room to be like, you can just play an NPC basically. Like, come in and just have fun with the group. You don't have to be a permanent stay.
Yep.
That's something that I'm going to be experimenting with as well, and that's something that I encourage a lot of people to do, because I have had... The only other person that's DM'd for me while I've been in college, he had the same issue where there was nights where he was like, dude, 3 more people asked to play, and now we're up to like a group of 9. And it's like,
Yeah,
well,
you
just
you
have
have
them
to
come
put
in.
your foot down.
Yeah, just have them come in for like a session and then be like, okay, get the fuck out.
Yeah, like I felt like victim to that because like I invited someone and then my other friends were like, oh, we want to play, and I was like, oh sure,
Yeah.
and then our group had so many people we got nothing done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also settling for Baldur's Gate 3 Otter isn't terrible either, because that game is fucking phenomenal. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. That game is so good.
But yeah, I think it's very important to make sure it's not them. It's just that I'm trying to be more serious about this because I think it'll be a lot of fun. And if you can't commit, then you can't commit. It's not a big deal. It's just something to bring up. So having the right players is true
and real.
True and real. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like
true and real.
it's like part of it is luck. I'm gonna be honest. Like I have a group that I've been running with for like maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
And I found our DM, like the first DM we tried to get, he just ghosted us. The second
Ooh.
one, he's been a chill guy for the entire like for 2 years. He's been DMing,
Damn.
and we've just like, and I was just thinking, like I thought about it at one point, and I was like, wow, it just worked out. Like
Yeah.
I looked on Reddit for a DM, and it just worked out.
Nice, yeah, that's fair. I think that's something I've never really thought about because I've always wanted to play, right? I'd never looked elsewhere other than like my circle, and
Yeah.
I should have probably reached out at some point, which would have probably been good experience. But I'm glad that my first experience has been like, because like I said, I've done one shots before, but I'm glad my first campaign experience is with good friends.
Yeah.
Because
Makes
even though not all of us like know each other super well, I knew that your guys' personalities would work well as a DM.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck it, this is the time to do it, and with the group
Yep.
to do it. So
Yeah, everything did work out really well for us so far, and that's not to hopefully jinx it or anything, but
yeah, 100%. I don't think that there's any jinxing to be done because also, like I said, we might end up having 6 players, and that is room to have someone leave, and then maybe they come back as a different character.
yeah, dude, honestly, Double did make a good point because there is a ton of characters I would want to play.
Yeah.
And honestly, the more that the world goes on and the more it develops, the more I think about a cool character that could be played also. So honestly, if homie fucking dies, all will be well.
Yeah, and there's also something to be said about this is an ongoing world. Your character dying has other repercussions than just someone disappearing. So.
Yeah.
Otter,
like everyone in the
Otter
group
brings
crying.
Otter brings up a good point here. He finds that who someone romances in BG3 says a lot about them. Brandon, who did you fuck in Baldur's Gate 3?
In me and Isabel's playthrough, I haven't been able to do it with anyone.
Oh yeah.
You know,
my path has been so set on retribution.
Typically plays, it's like that's an achievement because like they are throwing themselves at you.
Yeah,
they really are. I think my first playthrough, I fucked Shadowheart the first instant I got the chance.
Yeah, Dane didn't Dane do it with Karlach?
Yeah, in our playthrough, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't smash anyone in our playthrough either.
Nah, I fucked the vampire, so.
Oh, I forgot you did that.
No, in our as actually I fucked Gale, not the vampire. I was thinking of my barbarian.
Oh, I forgot about that. That was fun for us all to sit there and endure.
Dude, Gale's a crazy he's a freak.
He is insane.
Yeah, Gale was about it.
Gale's about it. Whenever he said, I'm gonna fuck you in the astral plane, I said, I mean, I can't say no. Like...
Astral plane. Alright.
Oh, shit.
Yes, Daddy?
Jesus. Yeah, because there was like that scene where he grew like 3 different spectral arms and was like hugging on it. I was like, damn. I think I made the right choice.
Hey, I'll be right back.
Yeah, you're good. Double, have you played BG3?
I have.
Yeah.
I have this. Well, this is the character I made up with friends, but and I actually liked him so much more than my initial character. I kind of almost traded over. His name is Bronson Swanson. He's a battle master fighter, and like he's like this dark skinned dude, but I gave him hair that just doesn't match. So he has like this really pretty boy hair, but he's this like brolic dude.
Yeah.
So I just love him so much. It's so funny to me.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, there's always a place for gimmicky, like, quote unquote characters, because surface level everyone's kind of gimmicky, right?
Yeah.
Like once you break past that surface of gimmick, that's whenever you can build depth. But I mean, like just look at Bando. I mean, surface level, he's a Jamaican turtle that smokes weed. Like that's pretty gimmicky. But you know, maybe we'll discover there's a deeper side to that. Especially with you guys. You guys haven't experienced Volmir, but you guys know as players that he exists because of the message, and. I'm excited for you guys to see that part of his story. So there's a lot coming your guys' way, to say the least. Also, Elvish is a dog shit language, because I have tried to translate a lot of things into Elvish and it never works. It's like half of it is just English. And that doesn't feel very fantastical. And there's like 37 different forms of Elvish. There's a pirate translator, if anyone's interested, though.
Cool.
I don't know how you can't speak pirate. I feel like you just add a lot of R's and shit.
Yeah.
YouTube is ass. That's totally fair, Otter. Understandable. You know, I've thought about. I don't know if you've seen the map, but like the entire like Diamond Sun Isles. If you guys end up journeying there, I don't know how that's gonna work, because I haven't thought about like who controls those waters yet. There's so much geopolitical shit that I have to think about necessarily, and I haven't gotten that far.
Hey man, that's the same with me. And when I made that giant hive city, I thought about, oh, there'd be like a way to get around with public transportation, like well into me running a game with these people. I was like, oh wait, yeah, there would be like a train. What am I thinking?
Yeah, that's fair. I've returned. Glad to see you back. Glad to see you back. Now I don't know whether to call you
Like
Otter
government,
or
I didn't think much about government. I was
games.
just like, there's a government, but you know.
Ow, shit.
Because I was so hyper focused. Because in the campaign I run, they're with the police, so they're dealing with like the the aftermath of it all.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of. I mean, it's an interesting dichotomy to like not really care about the government if it doesn't matter, but sometimes it's unavoidable. Like a lot of the places I've created, it doesn't matter until you guys interact with it, and then like Golden Spire, I have all of that government system like flushed out because it's gonna end up mattering, especially to you probably. So I was like, I need to flush that out so that whenever you interact with it, it doesn't seem surface level. But something like Steelgate, you guys aren't gonna interact with yet. It's just a military encampment, so you know that there's some sort of hierarchy, but it doesn't matter what it is yet, unless you guys interact with it. So.
Yeah, I think that's why I got away with it as long as I did, because they kind of were the government that
yes,
they would
it is
be
an original
with.
world.
So that part was kind of developed out in terms of the law, but in terms of like political stuff, it's such a big city, and they're just here trying to deal with criminal syndicates that it didn't really come up until later when I was like, I need to like work this out more.
Yeah. And I told Brandon this a while back. I gave you guys the map that is like the well-charted portions of the continent. There's a lot of things that I have created as like points of interest that aren't. I create a lot of surface level things, and then whenever you guys choose to interact with them, or there's like a good plot point that takes you there, that's whenever I flush them out for the session. I think that as a DM, one of like the hardest things is like quality control, because if you write a bunch of surface level shit, and then that's all you have, that can be really problematic. But if you have a bunch of surface level shit that's just surface level enough to grab like a hook line, then you get to write the sinker, which is whenever you guys actually have a plot point that takes you there and shit, and that's where like the meat comes from.
Makes sense.
Love making dude, maps is so much fun. I won't lie to you, that's kind of what started this journey. Thank you for the follow, by the way. I appreciate it. That's another thing. I probably am gonna keep having alerts off during the main sessions, especially like chat as well. I think that with as many like serious story beats you guys are gonna like potentially have, and I think having like something serious happening and then having a giant pog face show up on screen would be super disrespectful to the players. Yeah, like I don't know. I just think it would be super disrespectful.
Or we meet an NPC and then you just see wood in like the wood. It's just like, all right, pug.
Yeah, I describe like a 5'4" blonde woman, and 50% of the men in chat go, "Oh, pog!" TPK Omega Lol.
Imagine you're like giving a monologue as our characters are dying, and then just someone says, "Imagine dying." Omega Lol.
Imagine dying. Yeah, I think that
experiment with that in like in a non-serious way, like at one point, but
I think that there is room for that 100%. I think you're right. I think that there's gonna be like one-shots and shit that are just goofier. We can have chat in there. I think that the main thing is that I'm okay with seeing chat over here as a DM, and like having chat open during the streams so that the community can interact with themselves, but it shouldn't influence the game is all. Like especially the VOD experience. The VOD experience is strictly for the story and the players and the DM. That would be interesting, because like on the last one I forgot to turn it off and I didn't realize that. So yeah, I gotta pay more attention to that. But
yeah, that would be interesting, especially because like with the more unserious stuff, I've kind of had this idea recently, like when the whole idea of like when I was talking about those vigilantes, I was like, if I kind of structure it in a certain way, I could have like an evil campaign kind of be a horror-based thing of you guys avoiding these super powerful vigilantes.
Yeah.
Because it's like, these like in a different light, these people are terrifying. So it's because it kind of turns into a horror game when you're like, I don't want to get my like spine ripped out by this 15-year-old.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Dude, fucking Otter switched over to Twitch, and now I'm gonna start calling him by his Twitch name, Games. Came in here and he said he mentioned something where a warlock that calls his patron mods and his party members chat.
Dude, yeah, I've seen that.
That's
before.
fucking
It's
comical.
So funny. That's so good.
That would be such a good like spoof character for a one shot where your chat gets to control you basically. Because I mean that would be really fun. Like for me as someone who gets to stream these, I get to be like, yeah, mods ban this guy.
Yeah, like, hey, yeah, mods, can we ban this guy? And you cast Eldritch Blast at him.
That's so fucking funny. Dude, I might fuck around and find out with a session like that, honestly. Oh, that would be so sick. Chat plays D&D.
I had a thing like that because I help moderate for this server that does like tabletop stuff. And one of the ideas that one of the admins ran at one point was the dungeon that was ran by the people in the Discord, where like what kind of would come up next was dictated by the people in the chat. And they would throw stuff out, and then the DM would have to like improv on the fly. So it got to some really like dumb like ridiculous stuff that happened.
Sitting there at a fork in the road. Can we get a poll in chat? Oh my god. I do think that, like I said, I think there's room for that. I just think that the main campaign...
Oh yeah, definitely. Should be kind of separate.
I do think it would be cool, like, if we, even during, like, the, quote, main campaign, having, like, my mods in chat being able to, like, pop up a poll would be still kind of cool. I think that might be something that's okay still.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, actually, now that I realize that if I had to run it, like, if I did run it on stream, I would have to be the one streaming, which it's like, oh, yeah. Well, I'd have to figure that out because I use Foundry, which is like so I would be like, okay, how do I do this without showing the chat these folders of NPCs that I have and like stat blocks?
Yeah. Brandon, here's an interesting question for you. We kind of discussed this briefly while you were gone, where like every character kind of starts out as a character, like a gimmick at the like surface level. How did you come up with the idea of Onsis?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know if it was necessarily gimmicky, but like it started with the archetype of like wanting to be a rogue but not play a rogue to its like truest form.
Yeah.
And so like after talking to you and like mentioning that I had also like wanted to play a monk kind of, just because I think monks like you can play a really fun personality type with a monk, depending on like what type of monk you are. And so that's kind of what influenced me to do that part of it.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's parts of the monk which we homebrewed that no one really knows yet, that other than double actually technically does know. But basically just homebrewed it to kind of meet my wants and needs of being like a shisty rogue-like assassin, but staying true to a monk still. Which, I mean, I guess everyone will find out eventually. I think that we did honestly a really nice job of like homebrewing like the balance of how we kind of combined the two things.
Yeah.
I
definitely
mean, but
like
once
it.
honestly after I didn't have really in mind like how I was gonna act or like play the character as far as like in-game stuff. and interactions until after session 0. Like after session 0, like being in the mindset of my character is kind of like what devised the rest of it, because we even had a talk after session 0 where I was like, okay, this is actually how it is. I was like, I fleshed it out because I was thinking during the session, and I was like, this all makes sense now. And I actually went back to the drawing board after session 0 and kind of like just trimmed up the fat. Like it made everything way more meaningful. Obviously Onsis is kind of like a double said it best, bro. It's like a what did you say, neurodivergent, like something or another. It's like
Ian, who was like a neurodivergent child looking at his father for
yeah. And that put it really well, because like Onsis has no charisma. He has no desire to like speak to anybody, and definitely doesn't relate to a lot of people. He's been confined to a monastery and trained from a young child to take the lives, to restore balance in the world. So once I started playing with that idea, and also like it was hard too, because as a person, as a human being, I talk a lot and want to interact a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to play Onsis like that sometimes, because he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And so like him in session 1, where him and Double are walking through the city, and he basically is like, yo, he's like, we need to go west, blah blah blah, and then like rather than saying something, he literally like turned west and just started walking. And so while that's not how I would react in person, it's like I have to keep a really like good head on my shoulders of like, yo, how would Onsis do this? Mm-hmm. And the more you think about it, and the more like neurodivergent you get, the cooler like the character has become, in my opinion. So that's just kind of where I'm at, and I honestly have a bunch of really cool ideas, and I'm fleshing out how. The hardest part is really figuring out how does Onsis interact with others, because he has to, and to make a rich campaign, you want to interact with your party. So I have like a bunch of really cool ideas of also like deriving from like real traits of people I've seen, like that were like strange to me. I was like, wow, that was strange. Why did you just act that way? And then implementing that into Onsis's character. So yeah, it's gonna be really cool.
I mean, you in real life, you are very charismatic to a certain extent. It's one of the few things I think that, like, I wouldn't call it bullshitting, but we can keep a conversation going pretty well. And I think that it's cool to see you take like yourself and stop playing yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's like certain introverted sides of you, sure. And the entire life I've known you, you've also been like that fine line where it's like you're mostly an extrovert, but you definitely have some introvert, and now you're completely like flipped where you're only an introvert. It's like, okay, I need to go get things done, and this group is the best way to do it, but also I could do it by myself.
Right.
So I am excited to see that.
Yeah, because that's something I also haven't unfolded to anybody, is like Onsis's purpose and reason for sticking with people.
Yeah.
That's going to be kind of like a bigger arc, I think, that I haven't completely developed.
I can't wait for you to finish your mission, bro. The first part of your mission is so vague that whenever you get the actual mission, it's gonna be fucking sick.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Keegan in the fucking chat. Little Iceberg. He's just saying hi to Iceberg. Games brought up something that I thought was really funny, actually, and he said he made a concept of just a fucked up crossbreed between a dwarf and a halfling that was completely min-maxed into a One Punch Man-esque character. And he states that he had a singular jacked arm the size of his torso.
Oh my god.
Horrifying.
I am going to make that an NPC.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like
a lot of the characters I make, well, okay, one of them, he was kind of my attempt at making a goofy character.
Yeah. And
I played a one-shot with him with some friends before we got into our actual game, because we were looking for a DM, and then we just did this one-shot, and just kind of testing them out. I was able to play him very differently in that one-shot to just be stupid crazy, like dumb crazy. Like, he was like, like they were like trying to figure out like what was going on in this town, and then they found someone like behind this door who was sleeping, and then I think they were looking for them, and then he was like, "Oh, they're dead." And he's like, "We didn't make it in time," and he like fell to his knees, and then he walked up to them. As they tried to wake up, he put his hand and then like closed their eyes and like, "Shush, shush, don't worry, we'll avenge you." Like I was able to do stuff like that,
Yeah.
but then in the actual game, one of the players had to step out because he was too busy. But then I realized this much later. I had to play this character a lot more serious because his whole thing was that he was just this guy that was in this like jester's like clown outfit that looked kind of creepy, and like his whole thing was he used to be a jester of a court, and he had like attacked like his previous court. But
Oh yeah.
that was going to come out later, but I wasn't able to play him as dumb crazy because the other guy that left was the paladin, who was the voice, who was the other charisma caster. But when I took that role up, no one else stood up as much because they weren't as good as persuading. So then
Yeah.
I had to. And then I realized as I was playing, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't really get to play him as like crazy, because if I did, things wouldn't really get done.
Sure.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
I'm excited. At least our team. I feel like our team is pretty balanced. Like we have people who can do
I think
lots of
pretty
things.
much everyone except Ansis would be willing to step up to speak.
Right, which I'm happy about for sure, because then the dynamic of the characters really gets to shine, and then the interactions are different. Like it's not just one type of charismatic character always jumping up and having a certain kind of interaction. At that point, two charismatic characters can have an interaction and then almost have an interaction with each other that results from that interaction. I know that's a stupid fucking way of saying that, but it makes it more dynamic, because then you can be like, bro, why the because if you weren't charismatic, or if your character wasn't one to stand up to somebody else even on your own team, then one person kind of gets to decide how the playthrough goes if they're the one like constantly speaking. So one person could be like, I actually don't agree with that, and now we're fighting.
Yeah.
Not actually.
I really, and since Keegan is in chat, one, he needs to accept my fucking friend invite on Discord so he can join the server. And two, I'm gonna be excited to see, because we're still at the point where you guys are like discovering each other, and like, well, that sounds sexual in a way.
Yeah,
But,
I was gonna say.
But you guys are discovering things about one another and trying to like kind of feel out what your guys' intentions are, etc. I think that it's going to be fun to see what happens whenever even more uncertainty is thrown into that mix. Because it's like, what situation are you going to find these people in? It's like,
I'm excited to find out what Asher thinks of Ansis, because Asher seems oddly interested in Ansis as well.
Yeah. Asher seems oddly interested in you and in Bando, and I don't know why. Like,
I think it's cool. I'm hoping Dylan has like a thing. Like,
Yeah,
I'm hoping Dylan has like, he has something brewing in his mind, because that would be really cool if like his character was actually like, if he implemented that in a way that was like meaningful.
yeah, I can
definitely
definitely.
me up, bro. He keeps fucking like, he's like, yo, what's your fucking deal? I'm like, bro, I will kill you.
He's got a lot of interest. He's got such a one-liner backstory that all of his backstory is going to come into sessions, because basically what he gave me was, I've got a rich family and I'm gonna be the heir of it, basically. And I was like, okay, well, no, but sure. Like obviously, like, I want you to finish your character arc the way you want it, but so.
Yeah.
My favorite character concept that I saw recently in a Slime Circle video was a wild magic sorcerer called Ziv, who was the daughter of a powerful warlord of the local area. Never allowed to leave the fortress, she discovers that her father had 12 children before her, all wild magic sorcerers, and were all being kept in stasis to be used as arcane batteries to fuel her father's power.
That's pretty sick.
That's pretty
That is pretty cool.
Oh, her name is the Roman numerals.
Oh, that's so good.
Dude, that's fire.
Man, I'd never be that clever.
That's insane.
That's so good.
That's super good. Wow. Wow. God damn.
Man, that's so good.
You know, being clever, speaking of Double, there's a lot of times where I have to not be clever because it just makes no sense for characters in world to like act that way because they're not special. They're just fucking people working a day job. Like you guys are very much a troupe of individuals that has specialties, but you guys aren't special yet necessarily. Like, and you guys are having pretty normal interactions, so there's sometimes where I'm like, oh yeah, there's gonna be this super cool character, and I'm like, nah, he just owns a tavern. Because eventually you'll meet some pretty interesting folks, but
Fuck yeah.
like I said, I'm super excited to see what happens with everyone. I think it'll be really cool. I do wish I wish Dylan was here to explain somewhat of what Asher thought to the players. Obviously, I want things to come out in character more than anything. So it's kind of all that matters.
Yeah, I tend to make like very not neutral, but like non-special characters, just because I that's why I make a lot of humans, because I always just like the idea of making a character that is just not really special innately, and they kind of, you know, either become special or they are able to do stuff, but despite not being that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff I do is out of spite, and as I like was getting into the community, I heard so many times, like the amount of times that I heard, yeah, I have a tiefling bard / warlock. I was just like, oh, you just think you're so cool, huh?
Yeah.
So even though there's nothing wrong with that, but in my head I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a character that's cool without that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that takes a lot more creativity, so I commend you for that for sure. Because that was
like,
one thing I didn't want to do with my character, was just like fucking brutalize it into being like something that couldn't be in the game. So
fair enough. I mean, I have a character concept that I made that I think has leached into my actual like personality somewhat, where I made this character where he's a I took this character I took a lot of inspiration from this character from Slay the Spire. He's kind of like this warrior who like did like, he kind of like summoned this demon to like, you know, so he could be the strongest, and they like killed his like village. And originally I made a character that I based him around where he does blood magic, but not in like the ritualistic sense. They're more of like he actually just physically controls his own blood to like help him as an Eldritch Knight. And I also took a bit of inspiration from the Red Lanterns from DC, and I was like, I wanted this thing where like something had happened to like people he cared about, to where he was so angry that he kind of developed this way to transmute his like body to where his blood would come out as like napalm if it like left his body. Cool. And then as I was doing it, I was his whole thing like to not just be like a cut out of the character. I was like, you know, since being an Eldritch Knight involves intelligence and strength, this guy would straight up just be like training his body and mind. And I thought, you know, maybe he'd probably like mellow out a bit in doing so. And then as I kind of developed it, I kind of took the concept a bit more, where I was like, I think he would still have like, I think the thing that like probably started this would be vampires. If he made his blood like this, just because it like in a spiteful way, like even if they do bite my neck, they will just melt.
Yeah.
I don't care if they rip out my jugular, they're gonna just incinerate.
That's extreme. Imagine like your DM explaining this BBEG, and he's like, yeah, he's a fucking mega vampire, and he's like 170 years old, and has like a concubine, slaves, and then he tries to bite you, and all of a sudden he's dead.
Yeah, like that's kind of like I thought mechanically it wouldn't do a whole lot. It was more just for like flavor.
Yeah.
But then from this character, what I love what happens is when you think of a character concept so long, you can make another one just branching off of an idea.
Yeah.
So I took that deep hatred for vampires, which I think that has melted into whenever I actually hear about a vampire, I'm like, ugh, I hate vampires. Like I'm just like, ugh, vampires, because I was making that character. But from that, I got another character concept that I plan on. I think it'll be my next character that I play in a different campaign, where he's a samurai fighter, where his life was pretty normal. His dad was a swordsmith and his mom was a mercenary.
Oh yeah.
And she was totally fine, but at some point she just disappeared. And what he rationalized this as, no, she didn't just vanish, she left. And then as he grew up, his his dad didn't go looking because he needed to raise a child.
Yeah.
So in that, his dad was very dejected, but this character took all the anger from it, essentially. Like, he's the focal point of so much rage, and when his dad finally passed, he's like, I'm gonna find her and then tell her I hate her or kill her, because he's just so angry. And what I love also doing is I was like, I'm gonna leave why she left open up to the DM. The only guidance I would give, it's like, don't make her plainly evil.
Yeah,
I don't want this to be easy for him.
Sure.
Because I was like, if he finds her, I want there to be some shadow of a doubt to be like, hey, you shouldn't, just try to kill this girl or like kill your mother. Like, she may have left, but she's not just evil.
Yeah, I will admit my biggest downfall so far has been thinking that not everyone would buy in as deep as they did, and I didn't go super hard into backstory, and it's gonna end up coming out basically in sessions, basically to rework that, because I thought everyone was gonna be like, oh, this is fun, let's do like 10 sessions, but then everyone was like, yo, this is really fun, and everyone was down for like a long-term idea, and I was like, well, fuck. Yeah. I kind of fucked up, and I kind of screwed myself on that one. Because I should have just done it no matter what. But,
I see the vision of why you wouldn't want to invest time that wasn't going to necessarily be worth it. But, it seems like after the break, from what I know about it, because we spent literally all of winter break together anyways in real life, that you put in a fucking shit ton of work on certain things, and it seems like we're going to have a ton of really good ideas coming back. So
yeah, I think
because the way you talk about it is you're stoked to unveil things to us. Like, you can't wait for us to get to the good shit, and I'm like, let's get to the good shit.
I have that exact same feeling with, like, as soon as I said, like, oh, I might run a thing for you guys at one point, I had to seal off like so much of what I wanted to talk about at the original world I made, because it's like, oh, I can't, because what if it somehow comes up?
Yep.
I know, I was gonna say, I literally just kind of stopped talking about what I was writing about the Q2 and everything too, and now I'm just like, I have literally fucking a whole thing of that's gonna be my campaign or my session. So
it's so much harder. And Double, I don't know if you have someone like this in your life, but with me and Brandon, everything I am passionate about, it is pretty much one-to-one something that I think, one, Brandon would find interesting, and two, he's really the only one that I maybe outside of my girlfriend, is who I want to tell things to all the time.
Yeah.
Because I think you would share that passion with me.
Yeah,
and
match that energy.
And now that it's I have to be secretive, even though that you are sharing that passion with me in a different way, it's fuck, I just want to tell you the cool shit.
See, yeah, I've experienced that so much, because it's all of my friends, all of even my other group of online friends, I was just I can't say anything, because it's just I only do little bits and pieces, and even then I'm careful, because I realize that as I give little bits, I'm I could just reveal a bit more, and I'm no, I fall into a trap of oh, let's do a bit more and more, and then I just give away everything. That's why I stopped with the vigilantes, because with the main guy Bastion, I cannot go into him, because he's also one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
But he has a lot of stuff that reveals stuff about the way the world, the universe works, that I cannot go into.
Yeah. There's dead ass times where I will be planning for a session, and it's okay, you guys might, because in the 2 sessions that I've planned plus session zeros, there's times where I'm okay, they'll probably find this that will lead to this, and I'm but what if they also found a little extra? And I'm no, they can't find too much at one time. They can't, because it doesn't make sense. But yeah, it's a balance for sure. You guys are slowly unraveling a much larger mystery inside of a much smaller mystery, with all of your other side mysteries. So.
Oh my god, so many mysteries.
I love just giving the players something and then them just trying to figure it out. One of my favorite NPCs I think I've also made that the players interact with a lot is this Iron Golem that his name is Alexander. He's this massive Iron Golem that doesn't hurt a fly. And the whole thing is that he's half sentient. His whole thing is that he introduced the concept of this was the closest thing to a sentient construct there was before Warforges, and he was made by this old grand wizard.
Yeah.
And like what he does is that he will sometimes ask questions or give responses in pre-recorded stuff that he had from back then. So sometimes he'll like ask a question and then it'll like be like a recording of a different voice coming out saying like, you know, saying like asking the question, or if someone asks him a question, he will play what the wizard said that answers that question.
Damn.
And I love him so much because he's this massive golem that moves really fast, but not when anyone's looking.
Yeah.
Like when they first met him, they found him under like this magic tarp. And then they were like, oh, that's weird. Like they found an inscription from the wizard that was like, hey, take good care of him, please. Like, don't be mean to him. And like, as they made camp around him, like, I think one of them was just sitting watch. And then they look over and the golem's just like doing the robot wave of it's only moving its wrist.
Oh, yeah.
He turns around and he's like, oh, hey guys, you know, he's up. And then as they leave the tent and they turn around, he's gone.
Gotcha.
And then they turn it back around, and now the golem's right behind the tent.
That's funny. That reminds me of like, I forget what that's like. Reminds me of a character I've seen in something, but I can't really remember what it was. It's like deja vu for me, but that's fucking sick.
Deja vu.
Yeah, I love Alexander because this whole thing is that like he has the facilities to like be incredibly powerful offensively, but he is like pretty much told don't hurt anyone, so he just won't. He will only interpose himself in between things and be like, don't fight. And if you do, and it's like, and if you cannot understand me, then that is unfortunate.
I have not played around a ton with like the idea of introducing, because like I don't know, like if you guys end up going to the Fae realm and shit, like I think I obviously love the classical Fae, but I want to introduce like my own archfaes and shit like that. I think that's kind of the route I'm gonna go, because like what you describe makes me really want to like send you guys to like the outer planes, which is a whole different fucking can of worms to unlock. But I think sending you guys to like some of like the closer realms to the material, like the Astral Sea or something, and like putting like my own spin on some spots would be the way to go. But then maybe we can also have a couple cool things where maybe you guys fucking fight Cthulhu in the outer planes or some shit.
I have a thing with the Fae that I can't say, but it's like there's something I did with the Fae realm that I like. I personally love, but I just can't talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Are you talking about as Arthur?
Not as Arthur.
Oh, okay.
But like in my own world, I did something with the Fae realm that I love, but I can't go into it because it has like an important implication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh, shit. Games in chat said he also had another character concept that was a cleric warlock, which one is a fire multi-class. And it was basically the village madman spending his entire life hoarding knowledge until his insight into the world allowed him to comprehend a great old one watching over the area. He's freaking the fuck out about just giant Cthulhu monster above the village, but no one believes him because, you know, village crazy guy. The old one takes pity on him and becomes his patron. That's funny. I do like the like with Asher's patron. I won't tell you guys too much because obviously that's gonna come out in character. It is very much classical in the sense of like why they want each other as like patron and servant and patron. It is very much classical, but there's definitely like a higher stakes value to it, which I'm very excited to play out.
That's good.
For everyone that saw Session 0, I think both of you guys were there for Dylan's, right?
Yeah, I was there for Dylan's. Yeah, we both were. It's right after ours.
Yeah, I'm excited for that to happen. Because there's some shit.
I want to get better at making really like just off the bat interesting like character concepts, because like one of them I have is like literally I have a swordsman from a podunk village who is the strong silent type only because he has crippling social anxiety.
Yeah.
like there's a bit more nuance to him. Like he actually like wants to also be an apothecary, but he doesn't think that he's suited for it because he's this massive guy, and he also thinks like, you know, I can heal people, but they're still gonna get hurt.
Oh yeah.
But you know, the concept, yeah, the village crazy guy that sees the old one above his village is so good.
I am currently trying to make. There's a real depressing part of history in Malnor that is very well known, so I don't have to hide anything. It is called the Ferda Ana Inor, and it's literally called emptying the land, and it is the systemic wiping out of elves.
Oh,
Super depressing and very well known and taught about to this day in Malnor, and I hate writing about it, but it also is like no world is without some sort of tragedy, and I feel like even though like obviously you don't want to make it. I've had a hard time writing for it because it's important to a couple characters in the thing right now, so I don't need to flesh it out entirely, but I need to like kind of make the main points, and it's hard for me to write about something so serious that I have to make up because I have to like genuinely think about like fuck, like why did this happen? And
yeah, how badly can I think right now? What would cause this to actually like resonate?
yeah,
That is tough.
Warhammer 40K is actually a great resource because they are a masterclass in talking about and like writing a thing that's just like, and it got worse. That's like the main thing they use. It's like, and things got worse.
Yep. Honestly, that's something I might look into with 40K. The dichotomy between clerics and warlocks is cool because one is like the holy patron saint and one is a like subservient too. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
A cleric who constantly chastise the warlock in the party for having to deal with an evil patron, but only the DM knows the deity the cleric worships is the warlock's patron. That would be fun.
Yeah, I love running the thing of like a patron doesn't always have to be evil.
Yeah, 100%.
I always thought that was an interesting like way to go about it. I also do that with paladins. I tend, at least I've only played one paladin so far, but the thing I like to keep doing is that they're not tied to a deity. I like doing that because it's like it puts more merit on the person themselves, because it's like it's an oath they made to themselves is what I like more than just like, you know, an oath made to, you know, some deity. Now it makes sense when some of it's like when you get to like oath of like, you know, conquer, I forgot what it's called, like oath of glory and stuff.
Yeah.
But with like oath of redemption, I feel like it's I like it better when it's just someone making a declaration for themselves and they gain power from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, intrinsic.
Yeah, I think that one, I have to start taking the timeline seriously, and two, it makes me think more about like what you're saying is like not everything has to be like evil and good. There's a lot of gray in the world, and I have to start like implementing, like especially as time goes on. It's like, what's your guys' piece gonna be on this world, and like where, like, because Ansa's whole thing is balance, and Asher's out for himself, and you're very dedicated to your city and justice, and it's like, what's gonna play out like long term with like good and evil between you guys? I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. Like as I had said before, like a lot of the stuff I make is out of spite. So if I see something too like a lot of the stuff in the D&D community, or at least like the baseline stuff, I will just have character ideas that are like the opposite of that. Like the bard I had, like the jester guy, I made him because I hated seeing all the horny bard jokes, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna make a bard that's just weird and creepy and is terrifying. Like I want to use that form of charisma where people do what he says because he's scary looking.
Yeah. Games in Chat actually brings up a pretty funny point, is that like there's always good sides to characters, and then he brings up Shar, and he says that she's a pure bitch. That is totally fair.
Lady Shah.
Also, all of the original D&D gods don't exist in my world. I have my own dichotomy of deities, and also there's less deities. I wanted a consolidation for a couple reasons that is yet to be known, but yeah. I honestly I kind of liked just drawing good they're all fucks. Yeah, essentially. I really like all of them. It's just like I don't know. I kind of like having my own spin on them. So
Yeah, I definitely need to work more on a pantheon because I have one I made up is called the Omni, which is like closer to like kind of closer to like Christianity, like in terms of beliefs.
yeah.
But then I was like, I wanted other like deities to exist. So I was
Honestly,
like, crap, I don't know how to make a pantheon.
with making the pantheon, the first thing I thought of is like I wanted it to be concise because I wanted it to be gray. Like there are good deities and bad deities, but the reasons that they're good and bad is gray. And if I expanded that to 19 deities, I'd be like, fuck. Well, now I gotta explain these two these two interactions between these two guys. Like, that's not really worth it for like something that yeah, like if you want it to feel like truly chaotic. In a sense, like having a tight knit group that maybe like all started together, maybe ended really badly or something like that.
Yeah.
That would make sense. But oh no, I can't get into that because that's man, I hate it.
Well, it sounds like we've got a whole lot of shit that we can do, even in this world and in other worlds, like even with double shit. So I think that's fucking exciting. Because, like, honestly, as a person, I'm new to tabletop RPGs. I've only like played video game RPGs and watched people play tabletop RPGs in some sort of fashion, whether it be live streaming or whatever. And so it's super fun to like have all this like pent up excitement for all these things and like actually have an outlet for it because I do really be liking this shit.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Like, I mean, a lot of the stuff I also like the world I made was it's kind of made to let me just do whatever I kind of wanted, to be completely honest, and have it still make some sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of like weird dimensional stuff, like tearing and like because the whole main history that like people know a little bit about, so it's not like a spoiler, is that way back when these like very old, like very Cthulhu-esque beings, like called Titans, were like kind of ruling everything. And when they started moving into
I
this
didn't know
plane,
about Jurgle. I'm looking
a lot of the
right
mortals
now.
there
That's
were,
so
you know,
funny.
either wiped out or a lot of them fled. But a lot of the kind of like humans stood their ground, and through somehow unknown reasons, they killed one. And that's all they needed to basically harvest its like bones to make weapons and learned its magics to completely rebel, and then just turn the tides and just like kind of wipe all these beings out.
He's just killing his shit.
And that's actually how I, because I don't tend to go too far into like fantasy racism. So the only little bit I have is that some races are kind of afraid of humans because it's like these people are capable of stuff that doesn't make sense if they're pushed to a certain point. So like some of the much older people, like a lot of the older elves are like, I don't mess with humans that much because they scare me.
Yeah. Yeah, I very much don't want. I want this world to feel like a world that is meant for everyone. It's just that sometimes a world meant for everyone has to be built before it feels like one. And that's kind of like the phase I'm in right now, is like with like the fantasy racism. I don't necessarily want that to be a focus, but it is something that has happened in the past, and I think it's important to like bring that up. Especially in the context of some characters that are very old.
Feel that. Oh wait, what the fuck? Oh, can my camera still die? I bet my camera uses. I bet it uses more power than my computer can give it. Damn. Okay, yeah, it can die. That's no big deal though. I've got fucking extra batteries, and I was on 50%. So that's how long 50% lasts me.
I mean, that was 2 hours, a little over, because you were in here before too.
So that'll be fine. But I was like, why did my camera turn off? It is dead.
There's a theory that Withers in BG3 is actually Yurgle, and he's too fucking tired to tell the dead 3 to cut it out, so he helps the party by reviving them and shit. It's so funny.
I saw this thing about Baldur's Gate 3 where like people were talking about like the Dark
Nice.
Urge playthrough, and I was like, why are so many people playing that? I don't see the like appeal. And then
Yeah.
someone talked about how, they thought like they totally thought of someone taking the Dark Urge thing and then just not doing it.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, that kind of feels like the main like path to take. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even consider just not like taking it and just not doing any of the evil stuff.
Yeah.
Like I never thought of that, and I was like, oh, I probably should have. Like I didn't, because in my head you were locked into doing it. Like you couldn't choose.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
my shit double.
That's so fucked up to. Oh, Jesus.
That's why that shit looks so nice.
Like that was.
Yeah, I think Dark Urge is. I started my Dark Urge and I'm almost through all of Act 1, and that's my favorite playthrough so far. Obviously, I love my playthrough with Brandon and Dane so much because we're just boys fucking booling. But
hell.
my Dirge playthrough is so fun. It honestly feels like the way like they intended people to play it, if I'm being honest. So
Yeah, that's what I saw a lot of people talk about, and I was like, oh.
yeah.
But I also love playing as Bronson Swanson, the nobleman soldier.
Yeah.
who talks about his family as if they were abusive. Maybe it's hard to tell with him. Like he used to talk about how his mom would hit him, but then he's just like, yeah, she's like, she took training really seriously, so you don't know if it was like in a bad way. Like it's just like you can't really get a read on him because he kind of just has the same expression.
Yeah.
Gets crazy real quick after Act 1. Fuck. Okay, just wait for Moonrise Towers. I'm excited. That shit'll be fun. Honestly, I might start streaming BG3 again because that's something I haven't done in a minute. So.
Well, dude, we need to finish our playthrough, bro. We
do.
haven't played in a while.
What act are you guys on in that one?
Almost 3.
Almost 3.
We're about to be into 3.
Crazy. I still haven't gotten past Act 1.
Damn, yeah.
I would just keep restarting because I was like, oh, I want to play this concept, or I want to play with these friends, like this group of
Yeah.
friends, and
No, that's a super common issue. People have like 200 hours and just haven't beat the game. I gotta dip, but I'll try and catch the next stream when it
It's just
happens.
too much to
Don't
do.
worry about it, man. I appreciate the
Well,
support.
dude, that's like me
appreciate
and
the follow.
Isabel. Like me and Isabel. Like
games.
Isabel wants to do all the extra shit and like all that kind of stuff, which I do too. But dude, we have so many hours played where we were just doing random shit, and she wants to like play dress up, which is fine.
part of it for me is just like I want to get levels, I want to get stronger, so I do all the extra stuff.
Same.
See,
Okay.
that's
Well,
the
boys.
problem with XP stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
At least in 5e XP, I don't know if that works that well.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I'm gonna go ahead and call stream just because I need to actually write, and also edit.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm down to stay in chat or stay in call and everything.
Yeah, I
But
was gonna say,
stream, I appreciate you guys
I'll
hanging out.
definitely be chilling.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
I think
much.
I will for a bit too.
Thank you so much